Hi, my name is Ana Lopez, and for my out of the box experience, I plan on observing a classroom in at an elementary school summer school program, focusing on special education students with disabilities, mainly students either with a bipolar disorder or any other mental or emotional disorders that cause them to act out either violently, physically, or verbally. And I chose this topic because, um, like 2 weeks ago, there was an incident involving I was out with my fiance's family, and my fiance's dad took a parking space that this other person was going to take, and he was backing out into the spot, and she already got into the spot and she was furious and she started cussing him out, saying such foul language, such nasty things, and she was just out of control. My soon to be sister in law, she tried to interfere, um, calm her down, but she just started going even more like off on a rant, and it made me furious inside and want to stand out and do something, but I was fearful that she was either gonna attack one of us. I wasn't sure, and that moment, I wanted to take things into my own hands. Not that I would have been good at it, but it was a moment where I felt out of control, where I felt like I had to do something, but I was not sure what was the best way to do it. And um, I know that later on she revealed, when the guy that she was with came to apologize, she had joined in the conversation as well, and she was saying that she was apologizing that that she's bipolar, and that was shocking to hear, and that would actually explain a lot. And I know that as a future educator, um, I'm bound either to have a student with a bipolar disease as well, either in my class or at least in the same school setting as the rest of the kids in my class. And there will be one situation or another where I'll have to deal with it. So I was planning on going into an elementary school and observing how the special ed teacher deals with those kinds of students in their own classroom, so I can get a better feel about how they handle it. What are the things that trigger their emotional outbursts, what the teacher does afterwards to address the problem, and maybe some background knowledge that the teacher can maybe provide about the student and their previous experiences, or what the parent has told them about what works at home and things like that. And I hope with this I gain a better knowledge about how to deal with future students like that, and that I can come to terms with they're not just students who are acting out. There's a reason. It's a condition that they have, and they're good kids, and to try my best not to look more on their misbehaviors, but rather on what can I do to address the situation, because it's not their fault. And I would want to try my best to be the best educator I can for them and the best support I can for them. Thank you. For my out of the box experience, I observed a classroom at Gauss Elementary School, a special education classroom. Um, the teacher that I observed normally teaches at Santo Niño Elementary School, and for the summer school program, they placed her into Gauss Elementary School because that's where they had the need for her. And some of those students came from different schools, like they were from all different kinds of schools. Um, when I asked her beforehand if she had any students in her class who are bipolar, or who say bad words, or who stick out the bad finger, because when I volunteered at Santo Niño for their summer school program, there was this one student who would do that, but he no longer goes there. She replied that she had a student who growls, and I was like, that's perfect. That goes under what I wanted to learn about more about. I wanted to learn more about students who have a type of behavior that um, is disruptive, could be disruptive to the classroom, or can put me in a situation where I wouldn't know what to do. And when I first went in there, they were there reading. Um, they were following along the screen a book, a reading book, a Dr. Seuss book, and they were sitting patiently there, watching the screen. And I got during that time I got to talk more with the teacher, because he wasn't teaching them or lecturing them at that moment. And she pointed out the student to me, and I kind of knew who she was talking about before she did, before she pointed him out to me. But after she did, I was hesitant to be sitting near him because the seat that I had chosen in her classroom to observe was right by him. And and I don't know why at first I was just overcome by fear. I guess because I associate growling with someone who could be hurtful or could hurt me in any way. And so I was a little bit worried. I kept looking at him, wondering what he was going to do next, but he actually was just there sitting in his chair and watching the video that she had up there of the book. And after that, they had to do some work, and it was math. And she had told me that he does not like math, and that is the moments where he does his work. He doesn't want to do his work. He's a bright student, she said, but he doesn't like it when he's challenged, and he's challenged the most in math. And she says, and whenever he has to do his math homework, that's when he growls at her. So I was waiting for that, and so she gave him their homework, and right away he said, "Teacher, I hope you gave me the easy one this time, or I hope you're giving me the easy one, or you better," like more as if it was a command, because he was actually saying like, "You better have given me the easy one." And I was a little scared, but she she just brushed it off and said, "It's your math homework. Your math homework is your math homework." Or your math work is your math work. And then he sat down to do it, and but then he growled, and it wasn't as intense as I thought it was going to be. But it was still a reaction that was it. It still gave. I had a reaction that was still, in shock, because you don't normally see that in a young boy. And the teacher looked at me and was like, "You see?" And but she said, we kept talking since they were doing the work amongst themselves, and she was saying that his growling has gone down because she has been working with him, and she told him that growling is not allowed and that she won't respond to it, and he now knows that growling will do nothing for him, so he doesn't do it as much or hardly ever. But it was, even though I was there to observe him, I noticed a lot of other students who, if they were in my classroom, I would not know how to deal with them. And that for them, they did not talk at all, and you could not get a response out of them. And the teacher would ask them a question flat out, and they would just look at her, or they would not do their work. And she would kind of get after them, but they would still have no response. They would not talk back to her or anything. And I think they still got their work done, but if I was their teacher, I wouldn't know what to do in that case. And since she was not their real teacher, it wasn't so much a case of that she had to make sure that they responded back to her, because it's something that they're gonna have to do throughout the school year. But she was just there to be with them for that month. And she said that a lot of the parents, they don't tell you anything. Parents never come in. There's hardly ever any parent interaction unless you have to come in for a meeting. And so you never know their backstory, unless, or just what's there written and given to you by their previous teachers and their plans from their previous teachers. And you don't know why they're like that. The parents never come in and be like, okay, well, this is what calms them down, or just in case they do this, you can do this. If this is what works at home, nothing. And so she just has to basically play it by ear and figure it out on her own. When I asked her what happens, or if she ever feels the urge to discipline them the way she would discipline her kids at home. I know in the Hispanic culture, spankings is a big thing for disciplining children, but she said that she is a very she expects her kids are very disciplined. She doesn't need to spank them because she has their own control for them. But she says that her home life and her school life are different, and her kids and her kids in the classroom are way different. So in no way does she connect how she disciplines her kid to how she disciplines her students in the classroom. She said, if anything, if they come to a point where they do get out of hand, you just have to restrain them. And that is something that I would not be capable of doing, but that's why students in her classroom are from the regular classrooms that are just there because of discipline problems. If they become too much for teachers to handle, they get sent to her classroom. And for me, she told me what to look out for. And she said a lot of the times, though, they just need attention. They just need the teacher to be patient with them. And she kind of gets mad that teachers just send them to her, and they're like that because they have had a line of teachers who never were patient enough to teach them the way they should, and or take the time to work more one-on-one with them and see what are their weaknesses and try to overcome them by using their strengths. And so they just go to her, they just send them to her. And I think that's something that I need to look into for when I'm a teacher. I need to look for my troubled students and see, okay, well, why are they acting like this, or what makes them do this, and then don't be quick to send them off to those resource classrooms. um, Look at what I could do to help them in the way that they need to be helped. Because if you just have a bunch of students who have behavioral problems and you put them all in the same room, yes, their teacher is more certified to deal with them, but they won't learn as much as if they're in the mainstream classroom. And that's why, as a future teacher, I plan on being the best support I can for them. And that student who growled, he's autistic, and my stereotype of autistic, or at least those who have severe autism, um, I don't know why. Maybe because of the severe cases that I've seen, like online or in my special education classes, I have built a fear in my mind of them just because they're so different, and I wouldn't know how to deal with them if they were in my care. And watching the student who was in the classroom that I was there to observe, he was actually a sweet kid. In a way, he actually reminded me a lot of my nephew. I think it was his haircut. But he was actually really sweet. And I realized that a disease like autism is not something that should be feared. They're still human, they're still children. And there's nothing scary about them. So I became a little bit more tolerant about that, and um, I learned to look at them for who they are inside, look at them for the good things about them. What helped me get over that fear of that little boy was, oh look, he helped this student do this, or oh look how he politely told the teacher thank you, or look at how he actually went back to his seat and said, okay, teacher. And that was like slowly taking away my fear. And I'll learn now to do the same thing with my students. If I have any fear of them for any reason, I'll just look at the good things about them, and hopefully that will lower my fear slowly but surely, but I'll try not to let that interfere with my teaching in any way. I plan to be as supportive of a teacher as I can and to just educate my students the best of my abilities. And that is all that I have learned from my out of the box experience. It definitely altered my perspective of those students, and I'm glad that it did. Thank you.